Welcome to the ITSP Magazine Podcast Network. You're tuning into an episode of the Redefining Society podcast, hosted by Marco Ciappelli. Let's face it, the future is now. We live in a hybrid analog-digital society, and we must stop ignoring it or pretending that technology is not affecting us. The line between the physical and virtual worlds has become a figment of our imagination. On it, we are continually performing a dangerous balancing act, juggling convenience, privacy, freedom, security, technology, society, culture, and even the future of humanity. There is no better place than here, and no better time than now, to muse on our relationship with technology and how to redefine what society means in this new age.
Black Cloak provides concierge cybersecurity protection to corporate executives and high-net-worth individuals to protect against hacking, reputational loss, financial loss, and the impacts of a corporate data breach. Learn more at blackcloak.io. BugCrowd's award-winning platform combines actionable contextual intelligence with the skill and experience of the world's most elite hackers to help leading organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities, protect customers, and make the digitally connected world a safer place. Learn more at bugcrowd.com. Devo unlocks the full value of machine data for the world's most instrumented enterprises. The Devo Data Analytics Platform addresses the explosion in volume of machine data and the crushing demands of algorithms and automation. Learn more at devo.com.
Hello, this is Marco Ciappelli, or is it? Because there's a lot of weird stuff going on lately, and by weird I mean artificial intelligence. So we don't know what is true anymore. We don't know if my voice is my voice. We don't know if me is me or my evil twin, which we had a good episode with Sean the other day. But what I do know is that this is Redefining Society podcast, and because I got lazier and lazier in looking for guests, I started a few series of returning guests. And in this case, I consider guest myself. I'm just saying this because I'm the kind of like the one in charge of this particular channel, Redefining Society. And what is Redefining Society nowadays more than artificial intelligence? We all talk about it, and some are more worried than others. And probably the one that are no worry are not paying attention. So we're going in this series with my really good friend that I'm going to let them introduce themselves very shortly. We're going to choose a particular topic still related to artificial intelligence or some kind of advanced technology, because we're kind of all kind of into this, and the effect that it's having or had or will have on our society. And we have a common thread that is that we need to look at the history, and in this way we can understand probably better the future. So we call this series Once Upon a Time Tomorrow. And yeah, it sounds weird because we're kind of weird. And so here we go. A round of introduction for all the weird, interesting people that I'm very, very happy to call friends and have this conversation with. Sean, Rafael, and Carey, who wants to start first with a little introduction?
I think Raf does.
Yeah.
Raf's going first.
Hi, I'm a game and XR developer, a technologist who follows games, 3D, AI, XR, cloud, and constantly curious about how we can evolve and grow technology. So I'll leave it at that. Carey?
I am Carey D'Souza. I'm a permanent lifelong learner, a technologist, always looking for interesting ways to use technology to innovate and build products that seemingly enhance our lives or make it worse. I don't know what. One of the things we'll discuss in this podcast, I suppose.
And I'm Sean. I surround myself with people who are way smarter than me. So I have a little bit of sounding smart just by it rubbing off. I typically look more at cybersecurity. I look at things like a program, so getting from A to Z. So everything looks like a project and is full of risk in my mind. So that's how I'm going to approach this series, I'm sure, as well.
There is definitely risk. There's no questions about that, but also there is a lot of art, there is a lot of excitement, a lot of creativity, and a lot of things to be curious of. And that's one thing I'm very happy. Each one of you is extremely curious, and I think we're going to be very fair and kind of looking at problems from different perspectives. So don't hold us accountable for maybe if we cross. It seems like we're crossing the line. We're really trying to be objective here. We've been told in the past, other times we got together, that we kind of go all over the places. So we decided this time to pick a topic still related to AI, technology, arts, and society, and work around that. And we thought that talking about the use of AI in movies and TV, with all the strikes going on with the actors and the writers, which at this point has been going for a while, it arises really, a really good concern, and it has a lot of parallel with what happened in the past. So we can start it with what we were talking before. And I think Carey had some points about a few things that happened in the past that kind of help us to maybe pick into the future. So what was once upon a time in your head that could represent tomorrow?
Well, I think just like every technological or any sort of advance that we've seen in the past has always put the existing state of technology or industry in a bit of a loggerhead with the new technology. And I think we saw that with, I'm using very loose discussion, we saw that with very early on with the automobile industry displacing the whole horse carriages. Much later on, we saw the whole typewriter being kicked out by the word processors. And then you saw that again in very recent times with the music industry, where you had the record execs basically ignoring what was happening to the music industry. But even and there was an intermediate period, the artists. I mean, there were a whole bunch of artists who were absolutely phenomenal. You had bands, you had 5-man bands, and then you had a DJ who was mixing stuff and producing records on a laptop. So, did it? I mean, honestly, in all honesty, I mean, all of these were disruptive technologies, and they are disruptive for a reason. They challenge our thinking, they challenge our way of doing things. And for me, it is always a question of, are these things tools or replacements? And I think that's and given where we are currently, and given how the whole, specifically the entertainment industry right now is at a bit of a loggerhead with the whole AI, and the concern is unregulated AI is going to potentially eat them out of livelihood and jobs and stuff. And do we want to look at it that way? Is it really going to do that, or is it going to force us to be more creative and then use it as a tool, and maybe redefine our skills? And I think that's a question I would love to ask the three of you, and see what do you guys think?
Well, I'm going to go quickly because you mentioned the typewriter, and I guess the point I'll make is new doesn't necessarily mean replace, in my opinion. Even if it's a tool that makes it way better than what it's replacing. There's still horses, of course. We're not gonna. Oop, and we lost Carey.
We just replaced.
We replaced him with a blank spot.
we replaced Raph already.
Yeah, we don't need him anymore.
That's
AI, bring the AI on.
I'm gonna guess the leave studio button was pressed over the instead of the mute button. I'll keep going, and hopefully Raph will join us again.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that new technology doesn't necessarily mean that old technology goes away, or that, I know we're going to talk a lot about jobs as well. But I'm going to go back to the typewriter, Because what I've seen, I actually sent Marco a picture of this. It's probably 4 or 5 months ago in front of the Met Museum. There was a guy sitting on the ground with a typewriter, writing custom poems on the fly, and he wasn't using a computer. And who knows? I didn't see a phone anywhere, so I don't think he was using anything to create the stories in his head. So he was actually writing on a piece of paper, and people would pay him to do that. The reason I bring that up is, one, it's interesting, but two, just last week, I saw not him, but two ladies with two of their own typewriters doing the same thing. And so I don't know if they're using technology in addition to the typewriter. I'm gonna have to stop and ask him now next time I see him. But the point is, they're using an old tool to create something that people, I don't know how many young people have ever seen a typewriter, right? But certainly folks who are nostalgic might want a story about their visit to New York and the Met, and from somebody else's perspective, written on a typewriter, which is perhaps cool and nostalgic. Which goes back to a thing that I've said for many years, that I often think that even though as new technologies come along, we'll hold a place in our heart for the old stuff. So I don't know how many of us watch silent movies, but to kind of bring it back to the movies.
There are not many.
I'm sure that I've actually been to a concert where a group of players, an orchestra, played to a silent film. This was a couple of years ago, and it was really, really cool. So there's another point.
I mean, there was games.
Yeah.
I don't remember games where you would have a silent scene and then the actors would sort of depict the dialogues and conversations. So that's kind of fun. But I think the point, you're absolutely right, Sean, that it does not replace it. It, for lack of a better, it repurposes it, or it makes us rethink how we are going to use the older technologies in conjunction with the new tech. And again, going with the typewriter, I mean, I was in San Francisco recently at a bookstore, and one of the highlights was there were 3 typewriters, and they would give you free papers, and you could buy a postcard and you could type out the postcard. They will mail it for free, so you could send a hand-typed postcard to somewhere from that bookstore. It's a great publicity, and it's well, I did learn how to type on a typewriter, so for me it brings back old memories. But it's also nice to get a handwritten note or a typed out note, which you know that somebody's actually taken time to sit down and type it. So there's always going to be place for that. And I think the concern perhaps is it going to take over majority of the way we do things and make that more of a niche thing? And so again, going back to the acting and the music stuff, would then an actor become just more of a novelty situation versus still mainline, but now he's using AI? So I think that's what and I think there's a deeper discussion, and Raf pointed this out a little earlier, about owning personal data and who owns it and how it's used. And I've got my own concerns about that in terms of what the output of that is going to be. So again, Raf, you want to elaborate on that and talk about what you think, where the concerns, I mean, you've been talking to people in the industry, so where do you think the concerns are coming from?
Yeah. Well, so I'll get to that in a second, but I actually want to start by just by getting back to something core that you guys are saying, which is the notion of extending or replacing. Does a tool extend the creators? Does it allow them to create more content faster or in a different way? Does it replace them? I think that it's an important distinction, because I think that most, and yes, our technology changes the production and the mediums, new mediums come into existence, but it's really important that we understand or even make a conscious decision when we want to extend and when we want to replace. And part of that is because when we are extending, there's an assumption that there is still work there. When we are replacing, sometimes it means that work is being dropped in, and the performers or the creators may not be able to engage. They're being replaced by something, but that something may not have the same level of engagement that they do. And I want to just throw a really quick quote at you guys. This is from Isaac Asimov. And Isaac Asimov is famous for writing every day. He wrote books, texts, he wrote constantly. And one of his quotes is, writing to me is simply thinking through my fingers. And the important thing to think about in the context of that is that writing in particular, like when we're thinking about...
He has an enemy.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't talk against AI. I mean, it's there. It is watching us. They're super intelligent.
What I see is a blank screen, and we can put whatever we want him saying right there.
So for those watching the podcast with your ears, it's not that Rafael stopped talking and just literally disappear in some void. So I think, though, I can start taking my opinion on top of that until it come back. And I think that the problem here is that we need to be concerned about the people that are potentially losing the job, and the fact that the copyright and owning your own image. I think it's very important. And I think that these people in the industry right now, what they're doing is they say, well, we're not there yet, but if we don't take action now, we may be too late, right? So while I think
we need to paint that picture for folks, I'm sure a lot of people have heard the news, but do we?
And actually, when Rafael come back, I know he knows like a lawyer in the entertainment industry, and he was pointing out a few things that may be in the proposed contract. So overall, and I think Carey can help me picture in this too, is the fact that the writers went on strike pretty much a few months after ChatGPT got really popular, and people got so excited about. Hey, Rafael, I got so excited about the fact that, wow, we don't need writers anymore. It's so good in putting one letters after another that it sounds very human, and it's very creative. It can do a lot of things, and a lot of mediocre writer may lose a job. So obviously, entertainment industry took these as a good starting point, and thought million ways to use artificial intelligence and maybe save some money. So I don't know. I heard stories about having AI, instead of being the tool to polish the job of the writers, be the initiator of the writing, so that then they can call the writers in and clean up what ChatGPT have done, meaning that ChatGPT owns the original concept, which means no residuals and no ownership of the piece, which is honestly quite wrong, in my opinion.
It is, but ChatGPT is any large language model. I mean, any LLM is built on prior data, and I think that's where the bone of contention is, that it is not ChatGPT or any LLM is not using brand new data. They're using data and information collected, scripts and movies and dialogues, and using that as a reference point. So, and I think you're right in pointing that out, that the biggest concern is that if I'm an actor, if I'm a writer, if I'm a voice actor, do I, every time ChatGPT uses my reference and produces a script, do I then get a cut off that, or do I get? And I think it could rightfully do that, but I think that the problem is that in an LLM, you have no idea when and where it has referenced it, and so it just becomes super murky.
True, but we personally, even when we write our own, we have reference in our mind. Everybody has bias. Everybody has prior knowledge. So I think we're going. We should go deep into this, but to finish the big picture here is that as you can use that for the writer, and maybe it's not as good right now, But the point is, what if become so good in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now, and we don't have a contract that protect us? So I give them that. Also, just to add the actors,
Right.
for example, is the fact that, and they are already kind of doing it, to be honest, I heard on certain movies doing it, to have background actors that some of them, they make a living being background actors, or playing the waiter in a scene, or the second policeman in a scene. They can go for one day instead of every day. They can get scanned, and then they'll reproduce the scan image of their body anytime they want, in any movie they want, changing all the costumes that they're wearing, or through AI, and they never get a dime apart from that one day that they work. So I think we're looking at two very large extreme here that
Right.
are.
But see, I think that we can actually bring it back to something, and this is like, there's a human process of creation, whether we're talking about writing or acting, but there's a human process that is more complex than what we can currently encompass in these AI libraries that were mostly, being frank, they were scraped from largely English-speaking content. Um, they represent a very actually narrow slice of human knowledge. They represent things that were taken mostly from the web, and they don't actually reflect a lot of corporate or entertainment knowledge that is still largely in local or cloud repositories that is not on the web, but they don't reflect non-English speaking content that much. It's very heavily a particular chunk, and it runs the risk of saying, these are, even if we go, hey, we like these stories that ChatGPT is coming up with, it is stories that are coming from a largely English speaking content audience regurgitated back to them. And it's kind of, it's basically like, how many times do you want to rechew this food? It's a small subsection, and it doesn't reflect when you go, hey, we've got an interesting grouping new, because the libraries that we are pulling from cannot reflect all the things that people could have read or could have experienced. And they also don't reflect when an actor goes on stage and they go, I'm just going to do this thing, and they come up with something new. There's
So
still a
let me ask
lot
you
that
this, Ralph,
AI can't do.
if I can. Let me ask you this, because
Yeah.
so that's with ChatGPT, which is a public user interface driven set of data. But what about when the studio takes their massive library of videos and music, and if they own plays or whatever it is, all this stuff, they transcribe it into text in multiple languages, and they match that with customer feedback and other information that they have within the company. So now it becomes private, but it's still presumably stuff that now they own the rights to. And then they say, I want a young
Right.
Frankenstein mixed with Johnny Dangerously set in the year 2029. And that large language model that's built on
Yeah.
GPT-4 is using their data and creates something different. They don't need a writer for that.
Yeah. And see, the thing is that they're still going to get better results if they go to, say, Mel.
Raf, I think yeah, I think Raf needs to make his peace with what AI technology he's using.
We'll take over.
But to your point, Sean, I mean that yes, your chat. I mean, you look at ChatGPT-4, you look at ChatGPT, any large language model, and for that matter, even if you look at, the synthesizer or the keyboards, which has got a library of sounds and it mixes and produces very similar. But at the end of it, I think it is still a tool, right? I mean, if I could have, if I could, again, I'm going to digress very slightly here. If I could, I love eating a steak, and if I could basically have prime Wagyu steak every single day, produced consistently, I'll get bored of it within a week. I can guarantee you that. And I think that's probably what's going to happen with, and no matter how many different versions of marinades you create, it is still, the core of it is still steak. And there is a chance that that's going to happen with LLMs, because they can only use past data to produce something based on the past. There is no new innovative thinking or no new ideas being pumped into that. And that's where I differ slightly in a sense that, okay, maybe instead of looking at this as a threat, we look at this as, okay, I've got these brilliant ideas, and this actually helps me take those ideas and put them. At the same time, you want to be able to protect that. So I think that's where the line gets fuzzy. Okay, you've got brilliant ideas, you can use GPT-4, but once you use it, does it then become public domain? And if it becomes public domain, then what happens to your specific brand of acting or writing or whatever skills you might?
Well, look at the examples of de-aging of actors. It's never about replacing the actors. And forward of Indiana Jones, even bad examples of this, like Will Smith and Gemini Man, which is terrible, deep in the uncanny valley. But even in that, if you removed Will Smith from the equation and you just said it's just a synthetic process, then you don't have an actor bringing unpredictable things to the performance. The human is something that we don't know how to replace, and the AI can help assist that. But if you remove the human from it, it makes the thing worse. Like it makes it, instead of it becoming, Harrison Ford there, you get things like the AI generated Seinfeld thing that was up for a bit, where it was a Seinfeld quote unquote, and it was like watching paint dry, because it was just, they fed in, all the episodes of Seinfeld and then said, make a thing like this with off-brand characters, and it's boring.
So here's one thing, and then I want to also maybe drive this conversation more on the middle, which is, I think the real problem is how you maintain the rights of people to their own persona, to their own art, to their own voice, and all of that. But I want to make a point, which is, what you just said, Rafael. I mean, there has been a lot of crap in movies. There's been a lot of really bad TV, and people watch it. So it's not that all of a sudden ChatGPT is going to bring us bad stuff, because let's be honest, some people love bad stuff.
I was going to say there's an audience for that.
There is an audience for that. There's people make a lot of money out of that, which honestly, it could have pretty much been made with not even a ChatGPT, but a photocopy machine. It's like, oh, this works. Okay, this work. Is that good? Music too. I mean, are you making something to sell? You're going to compunize everything, or you're going to make a masterpiece? There is, unfortunately, from my perspective, there is room for all of that. But obviously, if you steal the Police song, you're going to pay for every breath you take.
Yeah. Well, and of artists will be fine with saying, let AI tools create additional albums that I never made, and charge people for it. And some people will listen to it and will be fine with that. And others will go, no, I need to actually create the music. But for some people, it will just be enough to see the artist's name on the thing that was randomly generated.
Yep. So let's go back on the movie, though. Carey,
two things.
Were you going there?
On that.
Yeah.
Yes, two things very quickly. So I think data-driven development has been around for years, and I think we have. I mean, every writer reads books, every movie exec, every game producer plays games, looks at movies, and says, okay, this works, this piece works. And I think House of Cards, the Kevin Spacey, the Robin Wright, beautiful series made. But if you look at it, if you read about it, a lot of it was data driven. Even the opening credit music was data driven in terms of they figure out what creates that. So I think data driven development has always been there. And I think the thing is that previously, if we use somebody else's data, we had the acknowledgement, we acknowledged them, we gave them the due, whatever, the copyright or licensing fee or whatever, and we used it. But I think the fear now is that, one, data-driven development has been automated at this massive scale, and two, you are not going to post the first iteration. You are not going to you're not going to be able to pay the people whose data you've used, because it's using such a massive data set. So I think that's where it becomes that's where it becomes really challenging. And I'm all for, if I wrote something and somebody else wants to borrow from it, absolutely, but I need the credit, I need the acknowledgement, and the ownership still stays with me, right? So you can't borrow something from me and then claim it as your original contact. That's where I think it becomes. That's what I feel that what the current strikes have been all about. That, besides that, and the fear that, okay, if that happens, then that's it. You are just writing one story, and the rest, all the stories are being, the studios or the big enterprise companies are going to take over, and they are going to start generating. I mean, there's nothing stopping a private equity firm from buying a whole bunch of movie scripts and saying, all right, we are in the movie business now. So that's one part of it. The second part, which Raf mentioned very nicely, was that I think even all four of us love music, love the entertainment, love the book, but I would never go and watch a movie. I might just do it out of curiosity, but if somebody tells me, hey, this movie is purely generated by AI, there's no real actor who's acting it, nothing is real, but it's all, the storyline is great, but nothing is real. I think we as humans want to know that there was a process behind it. There were people who worked on it. There's a story. And I think that piece is something people are missing, and maybe the studio execs are missing. That, yeah, can you make a Marvel movie with a whole bunch of stuff? But I want to know that, hey, Chris Pratt was the actor was playing Star-Lord and all of that stuff. So you want to know a bit more about their lives outside of the movie and what they bring from there into these roles. And is that something we're going to lose with if it goes there? And that's where I think where we have to start looking at this as a tool. Maybe give Chris Pratt the AI tool and teach him how to use it, and maybe he comes up with his own nuanced stuff, and then he sells it to movie. I want to do these 5 movies, but I can only do one in real time, so I'm going to do bits and pieces, and I'm going to sell you this stuff. So that potentially could be, I don't know. This is, again, we're talking once upon a time tomorrow. Maybe that could be tomorrow, right? Right. I just sell you.
I love that you went there, because when you talked about somebody buying up, venture fund buying up a bunch of scripts and they become a movie company or production company. I'm just thinking back on my own history, given your Chris Pratt example, where I've done multiple jobs, multiple functions to type on a typewriter like Raf is. No, but to get different experiences, and those experiences then shaped the next thing that I do, whatever that might be. Yeah. And what I can see is where this tool, given it's a tool, can be used by one or multiple people to create something that a single entity couldn't. So crowdsourcing a storyline, right, where everybody's feeding a single instance of ChatGPT using the same memory key, whatever it is, to say, this is my input into this story. Here's what I think the villain should do, and B, there's what the hero should be and do. Here's what they're, whatever it is, to help describe that. And then the production process and the animation process, or the voice process, whatever all the elements are. I don't know, because I'm not in the movie business. But all those could be crowdsourced by either random people or selected people, and then presumably they could have a slice of the rights to that if they're contributing. Because I think one of the things that I really take from, because Marco's much more into the prompting than I am with ChatGPT, and I think how you describe it, Marco, makes brilliant sense to me, is that you're not just asking for something, you're interacting and tailoring and tuning, and you call it art directing, which is the part that I really love. So one or more people coming together to art direct a large language model, I think could be really powerful, right? And
You see, like you're already thinking in a very creative, innovative way to use
Right.
this technology. So it's like, here is a digital camera. I know you love photography, and here is a film camera.
Yeah.
Have fun with it. You're going to have fun with it. You're going to get creative with one or another, knowing what you can do with one, what you can do with another. And the prompt, Rafael was talking about that with the art director that you were mentioning when we were preparing for this conversation, how we both agree that in order to use the AI in a correct way or in a very productive way, you need to give the right art direction. I mean, you can have a vision that goes behind just putting letters and words together, just reflecting on what they found. If you give something really unique and cool, I think it's going to come out with something unique and cool.
I think you've got to.
Well, I was just going to say that like you guys have kind of got onto something which parts of the industries are starting to realize. If you create your own libraries, and that could be a fan library, it could be a library of data captured from an individual, like an actor or a musician. But if you use the process to create your own library and you say, create from this, then it's much easier to sit down and sort out rights and permissions and approval. But it also allows you to more concretely go in and go, we know what we're trying to make, and we're not going to get random hallucinations or unusual things that don't fit. And so it makes more sense to go, hey, Pixar has been around since 1985. If they built out a library of they have source in their depots that is not found in the films, but also they have resolution of data that is not in a Blu-ray. They have things that could build out, that could allow them to create, but then they could decide where and how, and they can do it without being kind of recursive but it's important to kind of step back and go, think about the libraries to then think about what you want to create, because it's much more interesting to me as a creator to go, okay, if Disney wants to go off, as an example, and go, hey, we want to have a range of, like, hey, let's take Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. We're going to take him in the studio, but if we go back to all the footage that we have, or if going forward into the future, we build a mocap library around an actor, and maybe we consistently do that and refresh so that we get a snapshot and their body scans every year for a decade or two, if they're on board. And as long as there's compensation, you can then go, it's not like, oh, we own this actor, but you can reproduce them much better. If they are willing and they are compensated, the amount of data that you can get to, I think that there's the Hollywood to create a cloud version of an actor that is very much AI assisted or created, but that still needs to be directed by that actor, and probably is best served when it becomes like their digital double, when it actually becomes a digital twin, which is very much an enterprise term. But you can go, hey, this is the digital Robert Downey Jr. And, or for example, you can then go, hey, how about we need this actor, but she's pregnant or he's sick. Can we get their digital version for the next 2 months of filming? And then they can come in after that. If you can merge back and forth, because it's extending again and not replacing.
Yeah, but it's so scary to think it this way. I mean, I don't want to live in an artificial world. I mean, if Harrison Ford is getting old and is doing 5, I'm also against rejuvenating his image. screw it.
Well, I think
No.
the rejuvenation has a time and place in story. I mean, if you're doing a flashback, you want
yes, yeah, but not because
not yes, you're
you
not
want
going
to
to
live
create.
forever.
I think we all want to live forever.
Yeah, but they
at
do
least in
already
memory.
in their
But
movies.
But
In the
it's,
memories.
it's the digital duplicate that's living forever,
Right.
not the original.
Your deeds remain after you have left. I think that's what I'd like to think. But a couple of things. I mean, one, I think what Rap mentioned, I think that could be very useful. I mean, if I'm an actor, if I'm on a movie which has a hectic schedule, and if I get injured, now I can basically say, all right, I am still directing my avatar, my digital twin, to do all of these scenes and stuff like that. I still get paid for it. So, and the movie production does not stop. So they don't lose money due to stoppage of work. So everybody sort of wins here. So there is that bit. And then the other bit, which I think is being missed by people, and especially any exec who thinks that they can own data and keep producing that stuff. A lot of the acting skills and a lot of the stuff that happens, and a lot of the actors, the personality comes from what happens to them on a day-to-day basis, how they live their lives, and they bring that into their acting. That's going to go away completely, right? And so you are not going to bring that. You are absolutely not going to bring that those nuances, the real life nuances and experiences into their acting. Imagine watching Robert Downey Jr. 20 years ago and versus now. He's a much better actor now. He's a far more refined actor. Now, if let's say if AI has that capability of using old Robert Downey Jr. footage and producing that, we'll just see the old bad version of Robert Downey Jr., right? So that's the case. I mean, I think that is the big piece that people are not getting, that AI is a tool. It's not a replacement. Like Sean also mentioned, I don't think it can be a replacement, even for musicians, for writers, because it will never have the real life experience that we bring on a daily basis to whatever we do, whether it's acting.
Well, the point of movies and film and TV is to entertain, generally through a connection, right? And that connection is something that one or many people have experienced and can relate to. Loss of life, marriage, divorce, birth of a child, winning the lotto, whatever it is, right? So those experiences come through in the writing and the acting and the music score that's underneath it to help pull out those feelings. And I don't think, probably not in my lifetime, that AI is going to do all of those things really well enough that
but it has to interact with. It has to interact with.
Right.
I don't know. It has to interact with other AIs and develop. It has to get scarred and beaten up like we humans do.
Well, and that's the thing is like we forget when we've got these predictive models that are mostly going. It asked for this thing. The client asked for this thing next to each other, and these are the most pleasing configurations of words or images. That notion of a predictive model replacing intentionality and agency and collaboration in creativity is a bad thing for creativity, because then it starts to get very just, oh, we're going to get the same thing we saw before. Another example I can bring up is I was reading recently an interview with Joaquin Phoenix and Ridley Scott, and they were talking about how they were doing Napoleon. And in that, keep in mind, like, they worked together back on Gladiator. So they worked together 20 years ago, and they're coming back together. Joaquin Phoenix didn't know how to approach his role. And basically 2 weeks before filming, he went to Ridley Scott and was like, I don't know what to do. And so, Ridley Scott basically said, I sat down with him and we went through the script scene by scene. We talked it through and we went back and forth. There was information that needed to be passed back and forth. And, Joaquin Phoenix basically had like an actor's block, like, I don't know how to approach this character. They talked through the motivation and they talk through what was central to the character, and they rewrote parts of the script. And that's the thing is that people who are not in creative endeavors, it's often a black box, and they just think, oh, just a thing happens, just spit it out. The back and forth in a team between a director or a writer and a director, between a game team that's building something, a film team, there's an iteration that goes on there, and that gets lost. And that's why it needs to be an extend, not replace, because you need that creativity that happens in the moment when you're making things, and that does happen every day.
I think it should apply also to the writing, right? Because what you mentioned, like, so I love actually to use the Chat GPT, and I challenge it. Like, I have dialogue with it. I try weird prompt and see what happened, and I am never happy 100% of whatever spit out to me, right? But I can see a way to carve it around that, like it's helping. And I think that as we get into the 45 minutes, which is not going to happen, we're probably going to talk another 10 easily. I think we need to agree that this is all about agree on how people are compensated. This is not about not using AI. This is not about banning AI from movies and TV. This is about, we know we're going to use it. I think it's going to be great. It's like, we always refer to music, electric guitar, synthesizer. Oh my God, this is the devil. We need to use violins. And then you do an electric violins, and people are like, holy shit, that's really cool. But we need to agree that this is probably a good thing if we can't harness it. And this process here is about deciding how to compensate the people that are being creative and not try to be greedy and try to think that AI can take all the jobs away. It'll take some, but I think it made us better.
Or did the job have to change?
That's it.
I was going to say that the jobs that have to change, the people that have to learn how to become more relevant, and in this new age of AI, where that could mean, okay, I just learn how to become a better prompter and be able to prompt AI to take my vision and generate something for me, and then still sell that, right? So, yeah, I mean, the whole point is not to take away livelihoods, let the people continue, but at the same time enhance or give them another tool that they can use to continue building on that, while at the same time basically telling studio execs that you can't really just produce things automatically and expect the audiences to love it. They might like it once or twice out of curiosity and the novelty value, but then it gets boring really quickly. And the other bit, I mean, the other novel thought I had was, like, let's say I'm a Harrison Ford or a Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Pratt. I go to studio execs and say, great, you want to use my prior footage to create movies? Have at it. Free for you. Anything new, I'm charging you 3 times. So there you go. So you want new experiences? Great. I mean, it's got to be a sum. I don't think it'll ever be a zero-sum game, but there's got to be some way of compensating for it is data being used, and great, it's automating a few things. So you're benefiting from it. So great, do that, but anything new?
Well, let's be real as well. I mean, if somebody tried to make a new Blazing Saddles, it's not going to go over very well.
It's right? Not. I mean, you're never going to
capture that. Things don't survive either.
No.
So old performances, old ways of thinking.
And that's also, well, think of it also in terms of the character versus the actor. So one thing that I find interesting in this is that, like, people kind of assume, like, this actor needs to always play this character. It's like, no, we've had a bunch of different actors that have played Superman. Oftentimes, it's Batman, Michael Keaton Batman. Like, the notion of a new actor bringing something different to a character is valuable. We don't need to always see regurgitations of that same actor playing the same performance of that same character. And it doesn't matter if it's in superhero movies specifically, they often have very defined characters. But even though the Star Wars Han Solo movie didn't make as much money as Disney wanted it to, it was nice. I actually, even though I love Han Solo and I love Harrison Ford, I kind of like seeing a new, younger character rather than like, here, let's take Harrison Ford at 70 and DH him, and he's still moving like he's 70, but he's now got a younger face. Like, I don't want to see that. I actually like seeing a younger, I think it was Alden Embark, right? But and I read recently that Daniel Glover is developing a Lando Calrissian series. I love the fact that they're going to bring Lando back, and I thought that he did a fantastic job in the Han Solo movie. I want to see a new Lando, a new actor playing that character is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes you want to see some new faces, or sort of a new take on an existing story. And we've seen reboots, and some reboots work really well. Those coming with a fresh perspective. I think reboots that try to just freshen up the acting and keep the storylines exactly the same tend to not do so well. So that's the other bit. But the bottom line is, I think AI is here to stay. We've got to figure out how to use it and use it to advantage. It's not going to take jobs away. It is a tool. We learn how to use it, and like every tool, there'll be people who learned how to use it and benefit from it. There'll be people who just decide not to do it, and they will have a more challenging time to find work or continue working, I guess.
So the more we talk about this, and the more stupid the entire topics and the entire issue sounds to me. Like, there is an entire industry now that is not working. And, it's not just about the writers and the actors. There is an entire industry. The people that work on stage, the electricians,
and all of these things.
Everybody, and nobody is caring or giving much of a flying rats about them right now, because it's all about the actors and the writers. But if we think about it, I mean, we know that within a few weeks they're going to find an agreement. They're not going to stop the whole industry. I'm wondering if the movie production company, they are actually owned by AI right now, because it seems so irrational to even think that AI can do everything and do it even better than the actors. It's like, do they really process this? I mean, all the things we spoke about right now, the need of human emotions and feelings. And
I'm going to venture a guess that there's a big four consulting firm in there talking about their 20-year plan and what they need to do now to prepare for that, and what things will look like then, and how the staffing will change, how the training will change, how the tech will change, how legal will change, how geopolitical stuff will change. And all that is, they're probably protecting their future by setting things up now. That's my guess.
Well, and the others need to do the same. They need to protect their future, even if now they're not in danger. They need to do it. So still stupid.
I'm going to vent. The whole self-driving trucks are coming soon. So what happens to all the unions that are moving heavy equipment for the movie industry? And they'll be out of business. So are we going to go on a strike then too? Are we going to learn how to use these trucks too? So again, the point is, like any new tool, we just got to learn how to use it and see how it serves us, versus basically saying, nope, this is the end of it.
Well, that's an interesting point, Carey, because presumably the two groups that we're talking about now striking have a pretty vocal, loud voice. I don't know, powerful.
Media covers them more. They're more powerful. They're more in the limelight. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that is being automated very slowly.
Right.
And nobody's talking.
It raises, and I don't think we're going to answer this question now, but who has the power, who can turn those levers and knobs to their benefit over others, and which other groups are going to take the brunt when they don't have a voice, or we get tired of talking about it, or who knows what.
So you go to the supermarket and you don't have an entire cart full. You got, I don't know, a bag full of stuff. I go to the automatic cash register. I don't have, how are you doing today? Exchange a couple of words with Trader Joe, they don't give me that option. So I have to tell them how nice is my bag and what am I going to watch tonight for a movie, because they must ask me that question. But the point is, nobody is making a big mess, again, as you guys are saying, about all the cash register people that have been entertaining and talking to the older folks, and and being part of your daily routine when you go to the store. What do they do now? I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's being automated, and I don't think creativity can be automated.
Yeah, at least you got that.
I think we can't automate creativity. We can't, to an extent, where people are consuming it the way we consume it right now. So I think the discussion needs to be more of, okay, if this is going to happen, what sort of skills are you willing to give us so that we can actually use this to continue working in the industry? And maybe that's a better discussion as opposed to do not use AI, because I think that's a non-starter. I mean, AI is already there in a lot of stuff. So maybe a discussion.
Well,
yes, teach us how to.
I think the tricky thing is we want to allow new tools to come in, but you have to remember that it's not always either cost effective or far-sighted to have AI replace the lowest tier of things. If it replaces the most junior positions, then if you go, hey, we're going to replace all of our junior writers with AI, how do you get senior writers if they don't start out as juniors because you never trained them? Then you have a dwindling population of senior writers, and you've basically destroyed your recruiting. So there's that, but there's also the notion that if the things, and we're seeing this in bits of Silicon Valley, where if the things that AI are trying to do are incredibly menial, the likelihood is that the things that are trying to replace it with AI and robotics are being set up because someone's going, we should have, like Google for a while had a robotics janitor program. And then they eventually realized, we'll never make this cheaper than just paying a human to do this. There's a AI robotics pizza company in Silicon Valley that went bankrupt recently, and it was because it's not actually cost effective to have robots making pizza. It's still just easier to pay humans.
Eventually.
But
I
we often,
because I hate my
we
pizza.
Forget how. But we forget that the AI and the robots are not nearly as advanced as we think that they are. It's very easy to go, oh, I'm hearing about so much in the news, and then there's a lot of hype, and then you sit down, you look at the reality, and you're like, it's okay. But you go to the grocery store, and you're like, who cares about AI? And everyone's like, I'm just living life.
I think the growth is also
the impact in a lot of industries is smaller than we realize.
And it's there. It's already embedded in our lives, and we've sort of gotten used to it. And I think there is of course the fear that it's going to be the development cycle in AI is getting exponentially faster and faster. But I think a lot of it is, there's a lot of misinformation about this, a lot of media hype. There's a lot of I think you need to look past all the noise and go down. And even with the entertainment industry striking, we look past all the noise, look at what really is at stake there, and then address that. I think we'll be you'll realize that it's not AI that they're worried about. It's basically capitalist companies doing what capitalist companies do, maximize profit.
I'm not worried about AI. I'm worried about people.
Exactly.
and how
So
they use AI. That's
Yeah.
my problem.
so teach them how to use AI. I think at the bottom line is, like, I think every enterprise rightfully is trying to maximize profits, and
Yeah.
they will use every means necessary. And as a human being, you've got skills, and you want to be able to use that to earn a livelihood, and so you want to protect that, right? And AI is in between that, so you got to figure out how to use it so that both sides sort of
Yep.
metamorphosize
Time to market, more releases, faster.
Yeah.
Right.
Which might benefit the whole industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
there'll
be
what I
more.
will
I mean,
say
yeah.
is, let me jump in for 1 second. What I will say is that we are starting to realize in this process, as the web and social media gets, that personal data has value, and individual data and collective data has value. Yes, I think we will create, a variety of libraries, but one thing that may come out of this is a sense of people trying to better understand that they don't have to give their data away, whether or just personal, I'm doing stuff and I'm posting it, but finding ways to gather people's data and then negotiate with companies, whether they are creative or tech or otherwise, and trying to be a bit more secure about our data, because we're starting to realize that our data has value, and companies want to gather that data, whether it's individualized or aggregate. It is useful for people to connect their data to their identity, to start to understand that they have an identity and a footprint on the internet, and to then try to find ways to barter their data, their creativity, their identity out to others. And Hollywood, I think, is going to push into this, a lot of us, because there's likely a price put on that data sooner than for many others, but eventually probably for everybody.
Yep. And I think we're going to end on that note, and the hope that this is a very important lesson. I mean, having this conversation like they're happening, not only in the tech world, not only in the cybersecurity, not only in the advanced technology company, but seeing how it's applying to everyday job, even the most creative of the jobs, I think is really, really important to prepare us for what has to come. And it's going to be fun. I mean, it's going to be pretty crazy. And I think it's going to be fun every other conversation that we're going to have. Hopefully, Rafael, AI is not trying to take you down next time as much as they did on this episode, but still a great conversation. And I say next time, stay tuned, because we haven't decided what we will focus on. But I'm guessing music. What do you guys think? Any vote?
Books. I mean, you name it. I mean, technology, AI. Happy to talk about anything.
Yeah. Any kind of reference with society will be great. So, thank you very much for joining.
Let's do music next.
All right.
Yeah. I think it's closely related, and we can keep it going.
I think this is a good crowd to talk about that for sure. So everybody, stay tuned. I promised 45 minutes. It didn't happen. So I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I hope you enjoyed the fact that we did our best to stay focused on the topic. I know we went a little off here and there, but that's who we are. We're having fun, and we hope you did too. So stay tuned. Redefining Society podcast, Once Upon a Time Tomorrow, notes, links to connect with us on social media will be exactly in the notes. Subscribe, and you know what? If you get in touch with us on social media and you want us to chat about something specific, or you have comments on what we spoke about, do so. I mean, we want this to be a two-way conversation. And everybody say bye, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Pleasure, gentlemen.
Take care, everybody.
Peace out.
Devo unlocks the full value of machine data for the world's most instrumented enterprises. The Devo Data Analytics Platform addresses the explosion in volume of machine data and the crushing demands of algorithms and automation. Learn more at devo.com. BugCrowd's award-winning platform combines actionable contextual intelligence with the skill and experience of the world's most elite hackers to help leading organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities, protect customers, and make the digitally connected world a safer place. Learn more at bugcrowd.com. Black Cloak provides concierge cybersecurity protection to corporate executives and high net worth individuals to protect against hacking, reputational loss, financial loss, and the impacts of a corporate data breach. Learn more at blackcloak.io.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Redefining Society, hosted by Marco Ciappelli. If you learned something new and this conversation made you think, then add this show to your favorite podcast player, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and share the ITSP Magazine podcast network with your friends, family, and colleagues. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey.